Hello again, friends. It's time to move on to chapter 5 of A History of Expulsionism, Joy in the Bakumatsu period in Japan, 1853 to 1868. So there is chapter 5. So I shall just crack on with the reading now. Chapter 5, The Reality of Joy, the Choyo Maru Incident, Joy no Jisso, Choyo Maru Jiken. The start of the incident and the reaction of the domain government, Jiken no Hottan to Hanseifu no Taiyo. The Choyo Maru incident is an important event which occurred before and after the coup d'etat Seihen of August the 18th of Bunkyu 3, September 30th, 1863 by the Western calendar. And in the background was the feud between the Choshu and Kokura domains about the execution of Joy. This incident had an extremely important influence on the complicated central government, in particular on the protector of Kyoto, Matsudaira Katamori, who could not leave the situation to chance, and it became a great motivation for him to take the plunge into the coup of August the 18th. The structure of the confrontation escalated into the Bakufu versus the Choshu clan and grew to the point where there was a real danger that civil war might be provoked. In other words, through the Choyo Maru incident, it is possible to reconsider national problems and the movements of the court, shogunate, and Western clans, and to understand the reality of Joy. However, until now, it has hardly been considered at all in Bakumatsu history, so it is not enough merely to explain the incident. From now on, I will clarify the whole of the incident, and so go one step closer to the reality of Joy. At first, regarding the definition of the Choyo Maru incident, in this book, it will be the sequence of events from the dispatch of the investigator, interrogator, inquisitor, Kyumonshi, and envoy, Tsukaiban, Nakane Ichino-jo, until his murder. Furthermore, I want to record in detail the events from the time when the Choyo Maru reached Shimonoseki and the loyalists of the Kiheitai attempted to force its loan, Shakuyo Kyoyo Mondai, and Nakane and his entourage were murdered. As far as possible, I also wish to refer to the political situation of the Choshu domain, the center and headquarters, literally head temple or Daihonzan of Joy. So there is an image of the Choyo Maru ship from Hakodate City Library, image number 20. The overly optimistic view of the shogunate, Bakufu no Amai Mitoshi. The Kokura clan reported to the shogunate after the Choshu clan disobeyed the shogunal order, Taimei, on and after May the 10th by firing on foreign ships, expulsionist activity, Joy Jikko, inquired about the content of Joy as Bunkyu national policy and decided to request that an inspector, Metsuke, be sent. This was to make sure the inspector could see directly the wrongdoing of Choshu and find a solution, Katsuro wo midasu. For this purpose, two Kokura clan members named Kono Shiro and Oyagi Saburozaemon were sent to Edo on June the 15th. Before the result of this mission was known, tensions between Kokura and Choshu heightened further, and at last the Kiheitai militia, volunteers of Choshu, occupied part of Kokura's territory. On June the 24th, 300 men of the Kiheitai, armed with cannons and rifles, crossed over to Tanoura and began constructing barracks, Shukusha Kenchiku. It was a de facto occupation and trampled in a remarkable way on the authority of the Kokura domain. Remember, these are on opposite sides, Kokura and Choshu on opposite sides of the Kanmon Strait. Yes. However, Kokura decided to wait for instructions from the Bakufu, and for the time being, however great the provocation, decided to grit its teeth, ha o kuishibatte, and continue to be patient, gaman wo tsuzukeru. This brought the two clans to the very brink of hostilities, with the possibility that this might become a civil war, nairan. On July 5th, the two Kokura clan members submitted a written request for instructions, ukagaisho, about Joy to the elder Roju named Mizuno Tadakio, 1832 to 1884, and at the same time reported the situation of the Western clans and requested that an inspector, Metsuke, be sent. When the Bakufu learned of the unease doyo of the Western clans regarding Joy, the details of the feud between Choshu and Kokura and the high-handedness, obo, of the former, they sent the envoy Nakane Ichinojo, 1836 to 1863, to interrogate, cross-examination, Kyumon, Choshu about the bombardment of foreign ships and the invasion of other domains, notably Kokura. They also decided to send the envoys Makino Sakon and Murakami Motome to several Kyushu clans to observe the situation, Keisei Shisatsu. What kind of person was Nakane Ichijo? He was a vassal of the shogun, Bakushin, and the seventh son of Watanabe Kai no Kami, who built a large house, set up a mansion, Yashiki wo Kamaeru, at Manaitabashi in Edo. His childhood name, Yomyo, was Keizaburo, and in 1862, Bunkyu II, at the age of 26, he became the adopted son, Atome Yoshi, of Nakane Kunai. His hereditary stipend, Karoku, was 6,000 koku, and his mansion was all of Ichigaya Choen Jidani. In the following year, 1863, shortly after receiving his family inheritance, he became an envoy at Skaiban, and in March accompanied the shogun Iemochi on his trip to Kyoto, Joraku. After returning home on June the 26th, he learned of the mission to Choshu and frequently expressed support for it, shikiri ni konsei shite, until he was ordered to fulfill it on July the 11th. On the same day, the elder Roju Mizuno summoned the representative of the Kokura clan, Kokura Han Rusuiyaku, and presented him with written instructions, Satasho, to obtain the support of the Fukuoka, Hiroshima, and Nakatsu clans and drive the Choshu forces out of the territory of Kokura. In addition, the Kokura envoys Kono and Oyagi were ordered to support Shugo, this document, and together with Nakane and his entourage were ordered to return to the Kokura domain in a shogunal warship. Then on July 15th, Nakane, with a bodyguard of 120 to 130 men, boarded the Choyo Maru warship at the Tsukiji training facility in Edo and began the journey westward. The two Kokura men were also on board in accordance with the elder's intentions. Surely neither Nakane nor the two Kokura clansmen can have imagined that it might be a journey to their deaths. The direct interrogation, Kyumon, of the Choshu domain was realized, but the shogunate, Bakufu, did not push this positively. On the request of the Kokura clan, the significance of the mission was more as a show of force, Ji Kodo, to the Fudai clan and other clans. The Bakufu sought to reduce the tensions between Choshu and Kokura and did not intend to lend armed support to Kokura. It thought naively, Amai Mitoshi, that if it interrogated Choshu, then the clan would respect its wishes, and if it did not, then the Bakufu would cause the Kokura clan itself and nearby clans to remedy the situation. Jittai wo dakkai suru. This poor judgment of the Bakufu was one cause which provoked the Choyo Maru incident. As stated in the previous chapter, chapter 4, the Choyo Maru came under fire from the Tokushima clan and arrived in the offing near the shore, that is, Oki, near Buzen, on July 23rd. Since the process leading to the landing of the mission had a great influence on the way the Choyo Maru incident developed subsequently, let us follow the flow of events. Nagare wo o. The tense situation surrounding the Choyo Maru. Choyo Maru wo meguru kinpaku shita joukyo. When the Choyo Maru appeared, a signal in the form of a warning shot was given from the Tanoura gun battery on the Kokura side of the Kanmon Strait, which was then occupied by the Choshu clan, and the Choshu batteries then fired salvos together, acting in concert. Then about 100 small boats surrounded the ship in the name of security, Keigo, and many members of the Kiheitai suddenly boarded the vessel. Sensing that they were in mortal danger, the two Kokura clansmen, Kono and Oyagi, strongly begged Makino and Murakami to conceal the fact that there were Kokura retainers, Kerai, on board, and so a strict order was given to that effect to the whole crew. Then two Choshu men, Taki Yataro, 1842 to 1906, and Yoshida Toshimaro, 1841 to 1864, came on board for negotiations, dampan, with Makino and Murakami. They asked whether Kono Shiro was on the ship, and when they were told he was not, the two men left with doubt written on their faces. But after that, on the pretense of inspection, haiken, 5 or 6 Choshu men came one after the other and went through the steamer with a fine tooth comb, haiharu, trying to find the 2 Kokura men. But the sailors took care of them, miwo yatsushi, and hid them in a pitch-black powder magazine, kayakuko, at the bottom of the ship, where they could not easily be discovered. On the morning of July 24th, at about 6 a.m., the Choyo Maru weighed anchor and set sail for Shimonoseki. Before the eyes of the crew, the Choshu gun batteries appeared fully loaded, with flags proclaiming expulsion by order of the emperor, Ho Chokujoi, and fierce warriors on horseback waving drawn swords. It was like a battlefield, an extraordinary and tense spectacle. When it was known that it was a shogunal vessel at last, all the gun batteries began menacing bombardments, warning shots, ikaku hogeki. Furthermore, the order was temporarily given to drive out the ship, uchiharai meirei, which increased the tension and the confusion continued. On the ship, bullets whistled across the deck, and the shocked crew lay down to take cover. Everyone was scared to death. Ikita kokochi mo shinakatta. Somehow the Choyo Maru escaped from that place, anchored in front of Shinchi at Kusuhara village, Kusuhara Sonnai, and immediately sent the minor officials, Kobito Metsuke, Nakagawa Tetsusuke, and Suzuki Hachigoro, to the Kameyama guard station. Even there, fierce warriors surrounded them with drawn swords, and one verbal slip would have brought harm, which caused the officials to tremble in fear for their lives. That may have been the reason why they pretended that the letter of inquiry, Kyumonsho, from the elder, Roju, was actually from the shogun, and that was their only way out of the tricky situation. However, their falsehood later developed into a major problem. The Choshu clan was also not a monolith. Choshu han mo ichimai iwa dewa nakatta. The officials, Metsuke, were received by a Choshu party led by Hirosawa Saneomi, 1834 to 1871, supported by Miyagi Hikosuke, 1813 to 1863, Akane Taketo, 1838 to 1866, and Irie Kuichi, 1837 to 1864. Hirosawa explained that the Choyo Maru was fired on because it could not be verified that it was a Japanese ship due to dense fog, nomu, and stressed that it was a legitimate action. Furthermore, he wanted to respect Keirei, the shogunate officials, bakuri, as much as possible, and take care not to frighten them, which was a different approach to those of the fierce warriors, gekito, of the clan. Already at this point in time, we could see the remarkable disparity in attitude towards the shogunate between the leadership of the clan, Hanyoro, represented by Hirosawa, and the warriors of the Kiheitai. Even the Choshu clan was not a monolith. However, contrary to Hirosawa's intention, the situation developed in a turbulent, violent direction, fuon no na hoko. When the minor officials returned to the ship, 50 or 60 Kiheitai members boarded the Choyo Maru with drawn swords and in the name of security, keigo to shoshite, refused to leave, isuwaru ikiai wo shimeshita. The envoys Makino and Murakami pointed out that there were already 100 armed men on board and that security, or a bodyguard, was not necessary. Keigo ni wa oyobanu. But the Kiheitai members showed an arrogant and disrespectful attitude. For example, none of them referred to the shogun. They either said bakufu, bakufu, or the most arrogant among them just shouted out baku. And since security was not required, they urged that they be killed, koroshite kureto semari, and also that if the warriors left, then violent men would raid the ship, and the Choshu daimyo, Hanshu, would be blamed, ochido ni nari. So they refused point blank to leave the ship. The officials of the shogunate, bakuri, showed a meek attitude because in the tense situation they were in fear for their lives, and also because the Choshu clan could summon the inspector and court noble Ogimachi Kintada and take advantage of the imperial edict, chokume wo kasa ni tatte, if there was the slightest meddling or interference, tedashi, on the part of the bakuri officials, and shout that they were enemies of the imperial dynasty, ichoku choteki. And the bakuri perceived that it was an evil trick to ensnare the shogunate also as an enemy of the emperor. The sending of the inspector mentioned in the previous chapter also had a great influence on the Choyo Maru incident. Regarding the response of the Choshu clan government in Yamaguchi, the daimyo decided to receive the letter from the shogun at his residence and recreation facility Ochaya in Ogori. For this purpose, Hirosawa was told that the envoy Nakane Ichinojo could either be brought in a separate boat or in the Choyo Maru to Ogori as he chose, but that if the Choyo Maru was to remain at Shimonoseki, it would have a guard ship, Bansen, attached to watch over it. In this way, the clan government's treatment of Nakane and his entourage was decided swiftly and with sincerity on July 25th, and on an equal basis with the Nagasaki magistrates, Bugyo, whenever they paid a visit, and perhaps even better than that. All things considered, it was unprecedented treatment, hakaku na taiyo. At that time, the Choshu clan was suffering great damage from revenge attacks, Hofuku Kogeki, for their expulsionist bombardments, Joi Hogeki, of American and French warships. So it was necessary to avoid a further build-up of military tensions with the shogunate. From this fact, and because he was bearing a written communication from the shogun, the treatment of the envoy was exceptional. The fidelity of the leadership of the clan, Hanyoro, to the shogun and the bakufu was not lost, as had been suggested until now. On the contrary, they were even expressing respect towards the shogunal family, Shogun-kei. We can conclude that at this stage, the tense relations between the bakufu and the Choshu clan were no more than a confrontation over differences in ways of implementing the national policy of Joi. It was indeed the era of Joi no Jidai. The regrettable ritual suicide of two Kokura clansmen, Kokura nishi munen no seppuku. Events moved rapidly. On July 26th, in order to check movements from the Choyo Maru thereafter, at around 2 p.m., the two minor officials who had been sent, Nakagawa and Suzuki, were requested by the Kiheitai to answer questions from the beginning once more. Then it became clear that the letter which Nakane had brought was not from the shogun, but from an elder, and the clan government began a strict cross-examination. At the last moment, under pressure from the fierce warriors lined up against them, the officials confessed the truth. If the letter had been opened, the falsehood would have been discovered earlier, but it only happened at this late stage. Image number 21, part of the list of questions about the expulsion by bombardment brought by Nakane Ichinojo from the Mori Museum. When Nakagawa and Suzuki talked to the envoys Makino and Murakami, they admitted that there had been a discrepancy, sogo, and that they had answered that the letter was directly from the shogun and apologized. The officials of the shogunate, Bakuri, were dismayed by the arrogant attitude, Bojaku Bujin na Taido, of the warriors, Gekito, and had devised a countermeasure on the spot, but the result was that it became the trigger for the pursuit unto death of two Kokura clansmen and Nakane and his entourage. The shogunal officials, Bakuri, began to apologize profusely with excuses which infuriated Do Hatsuten, the Kiheitai warriors, and a fierce debate erupted as to whether the envoys should all be killed. But thanks to the persuasion of Hirosawa, the immediate situation calmed down, Shinsei Shi, and the Choshu clan proposed that the Choyo Maru be loaned to it, Shakuyo wo moshi ireta. After that, there was a fierce row on board the Choyo Maru about how to respond to the request to lend the ship. The officers of the warship, Gunkangata, were ready to fight to the death with Choshu and wanted to set sail, but Makino and Murakami rejected this, saying that in that case they could not fulfill their roles as envoys, and if the ship returned to Edo, they would be unable to report on the situation during that time and the violent conduct of Choshu. On the other hand, Nakane argued strongly for quickly handing over the letter from the elder, Roju Kara no Shoujo, and the Choyo Maru should then immediately set sail, but that opinion was also not adopted. In this way, the shogunal officials considered various ways of dealing with the situation, and confrontation resulted. Makino and Murakami sought to restrain the extreme opinions of Nakane and the officers of the warship, and their anxiety can be sensed. If the officers' course of action were adopted at this stage, a limited war might break out between the bakufu and Choshu. This would be the very brink, setogiwa, of civil war throughout Japan, setogiwa, threshold, or brink. While the fierce arguments continued on board the Choyo Maru at about 8 p.m., around 200 men of the Kiheitai with hair knotted at the back, sohatsu, and white cloths tied around their heads, shirohachimaki, bearing rifles, shoju, and drawn swords, hakujin, came in small boats and, led by Yoshida Toshimaro, boarded the ship. In this situation, Makino and Murakami, fearing the consequences of rash action which might lead to a disturbance, said to each other that there was nothing for it but to adhere to the shogunal order, taime. Then they announced to all the crew that on the next day, July 27th, they would go to Kokura in a skiff, a one-man rowing boat, tebune, provided by the Mori family, to continue their inspection tour of Kyushu, Kyushu Junken. Thanks to this decision, in the end, the two men escaped death and were able to return to Edo. On the other hand, the two Kokura men, Kono and Oyagi, earnestly requested that they be hidden deep in the ship, and the officers, after consultation amongst themselves, put them in the magazine, Kayakuko. But at about 2 p.m., Makino and Murakami came to the officers' wardroom, Shikanbeya, and reported that the two Kokura men who had been contemplating suicide, seppuku, had now carried it out, and they requested that the bodies be disposed of secretly. This most dramatic and awful turn of events must have caused the ship to freeze with tension and fear. With no time to lose and with no other options, at midnight on the same evening, the bodies were secretly thrown overboard and sunk to the bottom of the sea as ordered. In this desperate situation, the unfortunate Kokura men were forced to choose their own deaths. It was a heartbreaking, mune ga itamu omoi event. The domain government is troubled by the Kiheitai. Kiheitai ni tekozuru hanseifu. On July 28th, Nakane at last landed at Shimonoseki, and on the next day he headed for Ogori and presented the letter of inquiry, interrogation in writing, Kyumonsho, about the bombardment of foreign ships. The content was mainly articles about the expulsionist activities of May the 10th, the bombardment of the Kokura domain on the next day, and the illegal occupation of Tanuura. It adequately reflected the position of the Kokura clan as one headed by a Fudai daimyo, a vassal of the shogunate. Because at first the letter was thought to be a direct communication from the shogun, it was considered that it should be received by the son and heir, Seishi, of the head of the clan, Mori Takachika, 1819 to 1871, who was Mori Sadahiro, 1839 to 1896. But in Hagi, at that time, the clan government was radical in expulsionism and the loan of the Choyo Maru, and it was thought it might be a mistake, and privately he was strongly criticized. On July 21st, Sadahiro returned to Hagi to calm things down, and on July 28th he tested out the idea, Setsuyu o kokuromite, and found it was difficult to carry out, jitsugen wa konnan. Furthermore, Sadahiro was at the center of a group of former students of the Shoka Sonjuku, founded by Yoshida Shoin, 1830 to 1859, and including Takasugi Shinsaku, 1839 to 1867, and Kusaka Genzui, 1840 to 1864, and supported by the higher class of the clan, Monbatsu-so, and with the energetic backing of the Kiheitai and other militias, formed the Seigito, Justice Party, an anti-shogunate armed faction which promoted expulsionism. At that time, this group constituted the government of the clan. On the other hand, there was an opposing political force called the Zokuronto Conventional Party, which sought to follow and obey the shogunate and whose power could not be ignored at this time. The Choshu clan may be thought to have been all for Joi Ippento, but the reality was complicated. When it was clear that the letter of inquiry brought by Nakane was from an elder and not the shogun, the radicals downgraded their treatment of him, but the clan government continued to treat him in a courteous manner, kogu. On August the 3rd, they sent Maeda Magoemon, 1818 to 1865, to offer condolences, imon wosase, and on the next day they sent money and goods, kimpin, as presents to his entourage in appreciation for their hard work, ro o negiratte. The clan government continued to express its respect and consideration, kizukai, for the shogunate. Although the clan government had produced temporary stopgap measures, ichiji shinogi no taio, at this point the question of the loan of the Choyo Maru became a major pending issue. After repeated discussions, it was clear that the followers of the Kiheitai could not easily be persuaded. But the negotiations for the loan were broken off, and it was ordered to Kunishi Shinano, 1842 to 1864, the retainer, Karo, in command at Shimonoseki, that the Choyo Maru be released to navigate to nearby Cape Maruo in Ube, Marozaki Kaiko. It was explained that there was a worry that for the sake of the forced loan of just one warship, to provoke a civil war with the Bakufu would be to disrespect both Mori Tadachika and his son Sadahiro, and it would undo the great efforts of many years. From this it can be seen that the leadership of the clan, Han Yoro, was moving to avoid civil war. But Kunishi could not be persuaded to obey the order, and Sadahiro was obliged to take the field. Mori Sadahiro left Hagi on August the 11th and arrived in Shimonoseki on the 13th. His ostensible purpose was to make a tour of inspection of the completion of the Deshimatsu and Dannoura gun batteries, but in fact he was seeking to persuade the radicals to return the Choyo Maru to the shogunate officials, Bakuri. But on the 16th, the Kyohoji temple incident, Kyohoji Jiken, suddenly erupted. This was an armed confrontation between a regular army unit, Seiki Butai, called the Senpotai, and the Kiheitai, which was resolved by the suicide of the Kiheitai member Miyagi Hikosuke, 1813 to 1863, and the dismissal of Takasugi Shinsaku as commander of the Kiheitai. In all this turmoil, the Choyo Maru was not released. In the end, Nakane and his party are killed. Tsuini Nakane Ikko o Satsugai. While the Choyo Maru was impounded on August 19th, an incident occurred in which the followers of the Kiheitai attacked Nakane and his party at an inn, ryokan, in Ogori Tsuichi, named Miharaya, the so-called Miharaya incident. Nakane happened to be in the toilet at the time and by good luck avoided disaster. But the minor official Suzuki Hachigoro and two of Nakane's party were killed. The Kiheitai men mistook Suzuki for Nakane and attached a statement of reasons for killing a traitor, Zankanjo, to his severed head, Kyoshu. Nakane must surely have been tormented by fear. Kyofushin ni sainamareta. Nakane hurriedly gave up the return of the Choyo Maru and asked to return home. So on the evening of the next day, August 20th, the clan government arranged a boat for him to sail from Cape Maruo, Maruozaki. But the Kiheitai members who had conducted the mistaken assassination were persistent. Shitsuyo. In the early morning of August 21st, at last Nakane and his followers were attacked in the sea of Cape Hiranezaki, and they were all killed. It had been about 1 month since they had sailed from Edo to stay in the Choshu domain, and with no time to draw breath, Kokuro yasumaru koto nado naku, they had been cruelly murdered. The sadness was overwhelming. Munensa wa sashite amari. The main reason why the Kiheitai followers, Gekitora, had attacked Nakane and his entourage was that they were on the side of the Kokura clan and they had denied the Bunkyu national policy, Kokuze, proclaimed by imperial edict, Hochoku. The Kiheitai also felt great hostility to the Bakufu, which had criticized the realization of expulsionism, Joi Jikko wo Togamiru. However, with regard to the problem of the loan of the Choyo Maru, the pressure from the clan government, which wanted to settle the matter peacefully and urged a change of direction, should not be overlooked. According to the Kokura clan's record of Joi, Kokura Han Joiki, the perpetrators of the crime were named as Kodama Hyakusuke, Arima Hikoshichi, Fujimura Motome, and Tamura Sho, and others. In the history of Ayo Nito, Ishikawa Kogoro, I think that should be Akio Nito, Akio Nito, I think, Ishikawa Kogoro and Fujimura Rokuro Motome, and others are named. Yoshida Toshimaro reported to the inspector Ogimachi Kintada that the perpetrators were 5 men who had left the Kiheitai in disgrace, Dattaishi, but Ishikawa was a feudal retainer, Saigo Hanshi, of medium rank in the 8th class, Hachigumi no Chukyu Joshi, who at the time belonged to the regular Senpotai and later transferred to the Yu Gekitai, guerrilla force. It is not clear how the group of assassins were formed, but apart from Ishikawa, they were all Kiheitai men, and surely Ishikawa must have been the leader. Furthermore, Ishikawa changed his name to Kawase Masataka, 1840 to 1919, and in 1867, KO3 went to study in London. And I have added a footnote, number 9. Kawase later became the Japanese minister in Rome in the 1870s, consul in London, 1884 to 1893, and thereafter as Viscount Kawase was a member of the Privy Council, Sumitsuin, until his death. The mediation of Yoshida Toshimaro and the departure of the Choyo Maru. Toshimaro no Shusen to Choyo Maru Kairan. But matters developed dramatically. The first report of the coup d'etat of August 18th arrived on August 23rd, and after that the details became clear and the seriousness of the situation filtered through to the whole of the Choshu clan. In particular, the problem of sheltering Sanjo Sanetomi and 6 other court nobles who had escaped from Kyoto and had been stripped of their official rank by the court, Kaimade Hakudatsu Sareta, and of disobeying the imperial summons to surrender them, placed the clan in an acute dilemma. In addition to this, the movements within the clan of the Zokuron-to conventional party, which was opposed to Joi actions, became lively, and from August 28th, the leader Mukunashi Tota, 1805 to 1865, and many followers of the party left Hagi for Yamaguchi to put pressure on the clan government, demanding that the daimyo reshuffle Kotetsu, the clan's leadership. As a result, Sufu Masanosuke, 1823 to 1864, and others were dismissed, himen sare, and there was even an order issued for the breakup of the Kiheitai, later changed to an order that it withdraw to Ogori. However, the Seigito Justice Party, with Takasugi Shinsaku at its center, staged a comeback and managed to get the dismissed leaders reinstated. Faced with these serious internal troubles and external problems, Naiyu Gaikan, the Seigito government placed a high priority on finding a rapid solution to the Choyo Maru incident. On September 3rd, at first the middle-ranked retainer, Okumishi Akagi Katsukuma, came on board the Choyo Maru and explained that regarding the loan of the ship, a separate envoy would be sent with a request to the Bakufu, and he respectfully requested that the ship sail as soon as preparations were completed. However, the shogunal officials, Bakuri, declared that the matter of lending the ship had still not yet been formally agreed, and as soon as Nakane's business was completed, they intended to return home. After that, they in their turn interrogated Akagi about what was happening with Nakane, and asked whether there was no communication from him. From this exchange, we can understand that the crew of the Choyo Maru strongly demanded an explanation of the situation, and they were in no hurry for the ship to set sail. Akagi stated that discussing this matter was beyond his remit, shokushogai, and he had no idea about what had become of Nakane. He quickly disembarked from the ship, and after a while the person concerned, who was Yoshida Toshimaro, came on board to explain. Toshimaro's attitude was completely changed from before, and he earnestly begged that as soon as preparations were complete, the ship should depart. Already at this point he was overwhelmed, not only by persuading the fierce warriors of the Kiheitai, but also by difficult dealings with the crew of the ship. While essentially maintaining the stance up to this point of the Choshu clan, Toshimaro was forced to explain the details of the disaster which had befallen Nakane and his entourage, and he strongly demanded that the ship return to Edo. The officers of the warship, Gunkangata, discussed the matter and concluded that it was not a simple one, and that anyway the essential thing was that they should return home and report in detail to the shogun and all below him. On the next day, September 4th, at dawn, Futsugyo, the ship sailed. It was in this way that the Choyo Maru incident, which had also involved the Western clans, at last saw its temporary resolution. However, the attitude of the shogunate towards the Choshu clan hardened and led to the beginnings of a harsh response. The reaction of the shogunate and the influence on the central government. Bakufu no hanno to chuosei kyoku e no eikyo. The Choshu clan reported the incident in which the Metsuke Suzuki and others were murdered, Satsugai, but they concealed the actual assassination, Ansatsu, of Nakane Ichinojo and his followers. However, since the details of the Choyo Maru incident had been reported to the Bakufu, there were suspicions, kengi, that Nakane and the others had been murdered. Makino and Murakami, who had accompanied Nakane, returned to Edo, Kifu, on August 20th, and on the next day reported the details to the shogun Iemochi and, below him, his assistant or guardian, Koken Shoku Hitotsubashi Yoshinobu, 1837 to 1913, and the shogunate. Also, Nakane's attendants, Chugen, Kichigoro, and Yasugoro, escaped at the time of the Miharaya incident, and on September 13th returned to Edo, rushed to the house of Nakane's natural father Watanabe Kai no Kami and reported all the facts. After that, they also reported to their superiors, Joshinshita, at the Bakufu. According to their report, they were suddenly attacked by a group of assassins who fired guns, etc., and killed all the officials, Bakuri. On the next day, their severed heads were displayed, Kyoshu. They further reported that they had been instructed by their master, Nakane, that if some incident should occur, one of them should escape from the mortal danger and return to Edo and report the matter. This kind of information drove the Choshu clan into a corner. The emotions of the Bakufu were deeply hurt and opinion hardened around the idea of punishing Choshu. On October the 2nd, according to information from the Choshu clan residence, Hantei, in Edo, rumors were spreading from the military academy, Kobusho, throughout the city of Edo about the seizure, Senkyo, of the Choyo Maru and the disaster which had befallen the envoys. As a result, fear and criticism of the Choshu clan was at a very high level, and the clan members in Edo were especially suffering, which they wanted to be understood. They vented their feelings, demanding to be told how to cope with the situation. In this way, news of the disaster of the Choyo Maru incident circulated through Edo, and at the domain's residence, it can be imagined that the clan members were desperately struggling to manage the tense situation. Although the Bakufu no doubt had unpleasant feelings towards the Choshu clan, which had until then been willfully pursuing Joi, it was not discussing any special sanctions. But the Choyo Maru incident had caused attitudes suddenly to harden, and since it coincided with the coup d'etat of August the 18th, talk arose of a punitive expedition, Seito. It was indeed an omen or portent, kizashi, of civil war brought on by Joi. Next, I would like to mention the influence of the Choyo Maru incident on the central government, Chuo Seikyoku. To state the conclusion first, the reality is that it was the major trigger, hikigane, for the coup d'etat of August 18th. There are various motives which brought about the coup, but the Choyo Maru incident should not be forgotten as an actual phenomenon, jitsuzo. To begin with, information about the Choyo Maru incident was being brought to the court day after day, and according to the August 10th entry in the diary of Nakayama Tadayasu, 1809 to 1888, when the Choyo Maru was bombarded by Choshu on July 24th, see above in this chapter, real unease was expressed that this might lead to civil war. After that, also, Nakayama was told repeatedly by his son Ogimachi Kunitada about the progression, sui, of the incident, and he shared this intelligence with his fellow courtiers, court nobles, teishin. So within the court, from a very early stage and continuously, it was irrefutable evidence, ugokanu shoko. For the courtiers, teishin, who had become hypersensitive, kabin, to the problems of Western Japan, the outbreak of the Choyo Maru incident, which concealed within it the possibility of civil war, was a very serious state of affairs. This awareness and feeling of crisis within the court was, of course, also shared by the leading actor in the coup of August 18th, Nakagawa no Miya, 1824 to 1891. And it was also not a situation which Matsudaira Katamori, the protector of Kyoto, Kyoto Shugo Shoku, could observe idly, since the problems of Western Japan fell within his job description, duties, shokusho. Again, going forward in time a little, in the imperial letter Shinkan to the Shogun Iemochi dated January 27th of Bunkyu 4, 1864, the phrase assassination of officials, bakuri wo ansatsushi, can be found. Even though the manuscript was handwritten by the Satsuma clan, Satsuma Han, it is a surprising fact that information about the assassination of Nakane was so widely shared, beginning with Emperor Kome and also spreading among the courtiers. On the other hand, the Kyushu clans, Kyushu Shohan, were the first to perceive the eruption of the Choyo Maru incident and to worry about it as a portent, kizashi, of civil war. They felt a fury, fungeki, tinged with extreme sorrow, hitsu, at the high-handedness, obo, of the Choshu clan. The Satsuma clan was also aware of the incident from an early stage and observed it closely. Surprisingly, on July 24th, the first letter about the incident, Dai Ippo, was brought to Kagoshima from Murakami Ginuemon, who was resident in Kokura. The arrogant Bojaku Bujin and reckless behavior, Boso Koi, of the Choshu clan was known from the first stage, and we can see that Satsuma was fully informed in a timely manner. Furthermore, on August 2nd, Murakami reported the details of the incident to the Satsuma domain residents in Osaka. The information was surprisingly accurate, including a list of the names of the officials under Nakane, whether each one was proceeding to Kokura or Yamaguchi, the facts about the bombardments of the Choshu clan, and the problem of the loan of the Choyo Maru, and furthermore the first mention of the two Kokura men. It also stated that the feud over the execution of Joi between the Choshu and Kokura clans was a threat to domestic politics, internal polity, naisei. From the fact that this report was forwarded by Koba Dennai in Osaka to Okubo Toshimichi, 1830 to 1878, we can see how seriously the Satsuma clan leadership, Yoro, in Kyoto regarded the Choyo Maru incident. Information about the incident was communicated with unexpected speed and accuracy, including the persons concerned, Tojisha, through various channels to the shogunate, bakufu, and the court, chote, etc., and in all directions. Especially, the incident was widely publicized in Kyoto, and this had an immense influence on the whole of the central government. In particular, for Matsudaira Katamori, the protector of Kyoto, who was aiming to solve the problems of Western Japan, Saigoku Mondai, it was the most important incident, and for Nakagawa no Miya, who was trying to assist the great shogun, Tai Shogun, in the pacification, Chinbu, of Western Japan, he was obliged to take an interest. Beyond this, for the Satsuma clan, the confrontation between Choshu and Kokura, which could lead to the collapse of the Tokugawa system of public order, Kogi Taisei, was a matter which it could not just idly observe, zashi. From these facts, for all of the principal actors, shutai, in the coup d'etat of August 18th, who were the Emperor Komei, Nakagawa no Miya, Matsudaira Katamori, and Shimazu Hisamitsu, 1817 to 1887, of Satsuma, it was a vexing state of affairs. Ima ishiki jitai. And to resolve it, a coup d'etat, political change, seihin, was necessary. In other words, it is appropriate to view the Choyo Maru incident as one of the main factors in the execution of the coup d'etat of August the 18th. The historical role of the Choyo Maru incident. Choyo Maru jiken ga hatashita rikiteki yakuwari to wa? Finally, let us summarize the Choyo Maru incident. In the first place, it arose from the two conflicting edicts regarding the national policy of Joi and erupted from the feud between the Choshu and Kokura clans. Choshu joined with court nobles such as Sanjo Sanetomi to influence the imperial edict, Chokume wo Saiyu shite, and caused the dispatch of the inspector Ogimachi Kunitada. On the other hand, Kokura appealed to the elders of the shogunate, Roju, and the protector of Kyoto, and caused the envoy Nakane Ichinojo to be sent. However, in the seething vortex, boiling whirlpool, futto suru kachu, of the Joi War, the Choyo Maru appeared with Kokura clansmen on board, and furthermore, because they pretended that the letter of inquiry, Kyumonsho, was directly from the shogun, this led to a de facto armed occupation of the vessel by the Choshu clan. This was the origin, hottan, of direct military conflict between Choshu and the Bakufu. It was the Kiheitai militia which brought about this state of affairs, and the clan leadership, while broadly confirming it, repeatedly searched for a solution, kaiketsu no mosaku. Meanwhile, the Zokuronto conventional party, out of concern for the realization of Joi and dissatisfaction with the clan government's handling of the incident, strengthens its attacks on the Seigito Justice Party. After this, the bloody feud within the Choshu clan intensified. Chi de chi wo arau hannai koso ga gekika shita. But the Choyo Maru incident was one of the main triggers, shuyuin, for this strife. On the other hand, the Choyo Maru incident did not cause, as has been stated up to now, the entire clan to be enveloped in anti-shogunate sentiment. In fact, it was the Kiheitai, and in particular the more extreme elements therein, which clearly came to the fore. Moreover, it was Mori Sadahiro and his entourage at the center of the clan government who rather approved of the movements of the extremists within the Kiheitai and sought to use their energy to realize Joi, and this reality stands out in sharp relief. Jijitsu ga ukibori ni naru. Within the Choshu clan, there existed diverse forces, but in fact, the extreme anti-shogunate force was in the minority. The Choyo Maru incident has its place in the history of the Choshu clan in the Bakumatsu period as the direct starting point for conflict with the shogunate, and as the spark, hidane, for internal feuds within the clan, hannai koso. Also for the central government, Chuo Seikyoku, for the force which was attempting to suppress the faction advocating Joi as the instant revocation of the treaties, Sokkon Hayaku Joi, it became a great incentive for the execution of the coup d'etat of August the 18th. Moreover, for the Bakufu and the powerful Western clans, it was used as a just cause for the bashing of the Choshu clan, and in the history of the Bakumatsu period, Bakumatsu-shi, it was an actual phenomenon which should be taken very seriously. When considering the Bakumatsu from the point of view of Joi, its importance is particularly clear, and it should be evaluated properly and fairly. Seito ni hyoka sareru beki. And that is the end of chapter 5. So we will stop here and continue later. Thank you very much.